Hello and welcome to this presentation on Digitizing Vietnamese art and culture, looking at the digital preservation for cultural promotion and education, including a case study of the Matca space for photography in Hanoi, Vietnam.
So, to give you an overview of this presentation, I will start by introducing myself and the research project. I'll then introduce the topic, as well as the research questions, hypotheses and methods. I'll then look at the theory around this topic, including discussion on the hierarchies of power over cultural representation and digitization as unequal and contested. Then I'll go on to the context of the case study on Matca space of photography in Hanoi, Vietnam. And then I will conclude the presentation by providing a summary.
Dr. Emma Duester and Michal Teague both work as lecturers at the School of Communication and Design for RMIT University, Vietnam. Dr. Emma previously worked at the University of Arts London, Goldsmiths University of London and Roehampton University in the UK. Research areas are the art and cultural sector, work in the creative industries, transnational communication, digital technology, digitization and migration and mobilities. Michal has previously worked at the University of Greenwich, Hanoi, SAE Institute, Dubai and the Higher Colleges of Technology, Abu Dhabi, UAE. Her research areas are the art and cultural sector, the creative industries, social design, urban spaces and transnational design pedagogy.
So let's introduce the research topic and the current state of digitization of art and culture in Vietnam and specifically the capital city Hanoi. So the art and cultural sector is becoming increasingly digital with new types of content that is created for online and new uses of digital platforms to find new ways of engaging with audiences. The COVID-19 pandemic has only further accelerated developments in digitization. The nature of digitization in the art and cultural sector in Hanoi specifically is changing. In the past, a lot has been done in terms of archiving and storing for the preservation of cultural heritage by state museums, with initiatives led by the Ministry of Culture, Sport and Tourism. Today, however, the new generation of cultural professionals are utilizing digital technologies to publicly display art collections. While there are challenges with digitization in Vietnam due to a lack of technical resources, human resources and budget, using digital platforms like Facebook can allow cultural professionals a free and open way of presenting Vietnamese art and culture to both local and international audiences. So the research questions and hypotheses for this research include two hypotheses first of all. Firstly, there have been many developments in digitization over the last 5 years in Hanoi, but there are country-specific challenges due to the lack of funding, human resources and technical resources that are impeding developments in digitization. And secondly, digitization and digital display allow Vietnamese cultural professionals to regain control over the narrative on Vietnamese art and culture. The two research questions for this project are firstly, what are the opportunities and challenges in digitizing art and cultural collections for Matca space of photography? And secondly, how are Vietnamese cultural professionals using digitization and digital display in order to present their narrative on contemporary Vietnamese art and culture? So to move on to the theory for this project, firstly I want to talk about the impact of digitization on the curation, preservation and representation of art and culture. So a lot of the literature discusses the changes to audience engagement and participation, the changes to art itself and the impact of digitization on the art market. However, as well as discussing audiences, the artwork and the art market, research is required on the work of cultural professionals, such as curators and gallerists, in terms of how their work practices are changing, how they are digitizing their collections, and what challenges they are facing in this process. Before we go on to the case study, I also want to mention that a lot is written about digitization in relation to Western countries, giving reason for this research that identifies the challenges of digitization in Vietnam, including the lack of funding and resources, issues with the digitization divide, and politics of representation. This research has identified the hierarchies of power over cultural representation, whereby institutions like the Louvre Museum or the Victoria and Albert Museum can digitally display and make their collections accessible by using the latest digital technologies and can employ skilled staff dedicated to this role. However, this is in contrast to the issues with budget, technical resources and human resources experienced in developing countries such as Vietnam, which can hold back or slow down the digitization process and hence further increase the digitization divide. So to move on to a summary of the case study. The case study has highlighted an evolution in the use of digital technologies for work in the creative industries, especially with regards to non-profit art organizations in Hanoi. The case study has provided evidence of the opening up of multiple channels for international connections, as well as for the display, archiving, and distribution of art collections. This type of work has been accelerated due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as cultural professionals have had to utilize digital platforms for work and for communicating with their audience. And now to provide a summary overall and to look towards some solutions. So Vietnam faces challenges, country-specific challenges in digitization. This means that Vietnam is at risk of being left behind, as not as many resources are up online about Vietnamese art and culture in relation or comparison to the amount of art and cultural resources from the West. Furthermore, the situation is compounded by the literature that talks about digitization very positively and not critically enough in relation to a digitization divide. In reality, developing countries don't have the same level of access to high-quality digital technologies or enough skilled personnel to do this job sufficiently. However, the imbalance in representation online can potentially be redressed by using digital platforms such as Facebook to display art and cultural content.
The research we have been conducting on the digitisation of Vietnamese art and culture has been raising some questions for us in terms of how, as an institution, to look at ways to support the contemporary arts and cultural ecosystem in Hanoi and Vietnam more broadly. So we've been looking to education projects in terms of action research to look at ways that we can support the arts and cultural ecosystem. We have been doing this through looking at ways to integrate into courses arts and cultural institutions as clients and guest speakers. So we have been collaborating with the Vietnamese Women's Museum, and they have come in and acted as clients and guest speakers for 2 courses, one being Modern Asia and the other the Art Direction course. We have also previously worked with the National Archives 3, also working with them as a client in the Art Direction course, and where students are tasked with developing concepts for how to engage a younger audience with the glam sector, collections and organisations in Vietnam. Here is one example from the Art Direction course where students were looking to develop a campaign project to engage a younger audience with part of the Vietnamese Women's Museum collection. So here the students were briefed to look at the betel nut and its place in terms of cultural traditions and the museum's collection. And this is the initial phase where they're beginning to look at an overall campaign and key visuals, including an avatar with which they will work to promote a series of workshops and events for the museum. In addition to this, the campaign from this first assignment will go on for the students to also produce a video which they will write the script for and the storyboard for and shoot the video production and also edit. And they will also be able to develop this in a way that it would be performing well on social media as a series of campaigns and interactive events. Thank you for listening to our presentation. Please feel welcome to get in contact with us if you're interested in discussing our research further or opportunities for potential collaboration. Thank you.